I think there's a reason why I always strayed away from making advice content. I feel like with advice content, really at the crux of it is you have a generation that's afraid. You know what I mean? And that's kind of why I critique the younger generations and I say they don't try. It's because they don't try. They're plagued with so much advice and they're riddled with so much fear, right? Because they don't want to make mistakes. But that's the thing about life. When you start living, mistakes are just inevitable. I think with cancel culture, I think with our proxy to in our parasocial relationships with celebrities, I just think we see the ways in which we dogpile on celebrities who are like in the shade room, and you know what I mean? And I just think that we're so afraid of that being us because one, we know it's wrong, right? Like we know they're celebrities, but we know it's dead wrong to get in the comments and laugh at those who have made mistakes. You know what I mean? Like just on a human level, like, you know what I mean? I just think we know that's wrong. And I think one, what we put out, we get back. And so for many of us who dogpile in people's comments, right? We partially know, right? Like for the younger users, we partially know that we are setting ourselves up for that same type of fate. But I think outside of like, metaphysics, I just think that I don't know. I just think that, there's nothing wrong with getting advice, but I just think that all it does is kind of create decision fatigue. And I think when you're getting so much advice from strangers, so much advice from people you don't even know, it's hard. Like, I feel like, at the end of the day, it's like, you don't know them. You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, advice is good, but I just think getting it from strangers, you're not really going to listen anyway. You know what I mean? Like you could sit and listen to all, like you're not really taking it in because there are just some things that only life can teach you. And I also think that's why you're dealing with a lot of people who are very comparative, because I feel like one, you have people who say on the opposite end of this, like, well, there are some things you can avoid in life, right? But these are people who typically don't share their experiences or, for many of us, right? Many people who come online, they just haven't lived long enough to make certain mistakes, but you'll get older and you just realize that mistakes are inevitable. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's not anything that we apply today. We're constantly trying to find the best route to an easy life, the soft life, whatever the case may be. But the reality is that no, life is full of bumps and bruises. And so I think I didn't make the video about resilience, but I think I do need to make one. You know what I mean? Because I know we know what it means. We know what it is to keep going, but do we really? At least I can perhaps speak from my personal experience and just kind of share that with y'all. Because I just think that, at the end of the day, I just think mistakes are inevitable, and I think if you are the type of person, you are resilient and you don't allow things to break you, you know what I mean, then you'll become a stronger person. You don't get that strength by just listening to a bunch of advice content and motivational speakers. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is. And that's kind of why you have people today who are really unhappy. I think people are unhappy because people don't live anymore. And, and I know we say like, in a general sense, yeah, we're all on our phones, but I mean like in the sense of like people don't try. People don't try. People don't get out in the world and do something with yourself. You know what I mean? Make something. Like, people just get online, post a little content, do what they do, and they feel like, oh, I'm being consistent. I'm doing something. You know what I mean? Or people take easy little goals, like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. And I don't want to say it's easy because obviously, you do have to work hard if you want to build a great body. But I mean, like, I'm talking about stuff that'll really change you. You know what I mean? Like, I do think health and fitness and like that, that'll change you. But I just think there's something in like learning and living life. And I do think that that's why, sometimes life rewards those who take great risk. You know what I mean? Like God rewards those who endure. You know what I mean? Because I just think that, we just live in a society that people don't really try. People don't try and people certainly give up, because, life is hard, and I just think that people want to try to avoid every little obstacle or every little, pitfall. And they want, all this advice about how to do things the right way and how to do, but it's like, you just got to live. You know what I mean? You have to live and like earn your stripes. And I feel like that's kind of where we are today. And I do think that, I don't know, I think we're kind of getting to that place. I know for me, at least, I don't have a lot of people in my ear asking me for things anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I think I'm definitely at a point where, I'm about encouraging people to make their own decisions and to get up from whatever decision they make. You know what I mean? Like to learn from whatever decision they make. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think I'm kind of away from oh, I'm giving people advice, and you know what I mean? Because it just, I don't know. I just feel like that's not my thing. Like, you have to learn for yourself. You know what I mean? You have to learn on your own. And it's that right there that'll give you esteem and confidence, to move forward and to make better decisions and to be more confident, to, be attuned with your intuition and your own voice. And you know what I mean? The things that you really desire. But I just think when we're constantly, seeking advice from people and how to do this and how to do that, like, it never really works out. You know what I mean? I think even in terms of business, right? I was talking to my relative about this. I'm like, man, at the end of the day, if you want to do anything in life, it's all about starting. There, you don't need no advice. All you need to do is start. You need to go off your intuition, because if it's something that God gave you, if you had the idea, then it's just about execution at that point. You know what I mean? You don't need to sit and listen to 30 videos about how to do this and how to do that and how to blah, blah, blah. No, if it's for you, God will give you the blueprint. And that's so real. Like, I really do believe that. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be the ideas that you have, but when you start fishing for advice, now the dream is on delay. You know what I mean? Execution is on delay, because you're so busy trying to, find the perfect path. And there is no perfect path. Your path is perfect because it's perfect for you. It's carved for you to walk. You know what I mean? And I just don't think we'll ever really get there if you're constantly looking for advice. You have to make mistakes. So many of us are just so afraid of making mistakes. And I just, and I think at the end of the day, when you start talking about advice from strangers, you got to be careful with that, y'all. Like, you don't know this person. You think about why you don't listen to your parents, because you know them. You know what I mean? You know them. You know your family members. You know them so intimately that it's like, I don't want your life. You know what I mean? So you may not listen to them, and you make your own mistakes, or you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. But I just think when it comes to strangers, you're basing it off of what? You know what I mean? Like, what are you you don't even know this person. You can't be out here taking their advice and letting them guide you in your life with your decisions. Are you insane? You know what I mean? It's nothing wrong with having respect and admiration for what people do. But at the end of the day, y'all know we got to separate the art from the artist. Come on now. Okay? You know what I mean? Come on now. So, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with people sharing their lessons, but understand that that's their lesson. Understand that that's what they learn. Like, you gotta learn. You gotta pay your dues for your wisdom. You know what I mean? You have to pay your dues for your knowledge. Like, you gotta get out there and learn, and then you can say, okay, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what it was. You know what I mean? I learned that. Like, you can't be like, oh, yeah, this is what it is. When you ain't that's not even your lesson. Do you even, you know what I mean? Like, and this is the thing of, like, comparison and having low self-esteem. I just feel like we don't even, because we be talking out the side of our necks. You know what I mean? Like, you talking about stuff you ain't even earned your stripes. Like, is that even something that, is that a lesson you learned, or is that just something you heard? You know what I mean? Like, and you can always tell why we be having that sense of, like, polarity and that congruence within us, because it's like, you're saying things that you never really lived. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking it, but you ain't never really live it though. You know what I mean? Like, you just heard somebody say that, and that just sound good, and it's convenient, and it works for this moment, this little snippet. You know what I mean? So we gotta get back to, like, living life, and I mean, like, doing things, trying things. You know what I mean? Of course, don't put yourself in danger, but you have to understand, we're in a generation now with this younger generation. They think everything is danger. Everything is not danger. You're gonna be okay. Like, I think somebody needs to tell, like, the younger kids, like, you're going to be okay. You're all right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sometimes, yes, okay, there are real dangers, but a lot of that stuff is like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, come on now. You know what I mean? This is like common sense type of stuff. And if it ain't so common, then we can have a conversation about danger. Okay. But at the end of the day, not everything is danger. Not every person you see is out to get you. Not every, like, you know what I mean? Like, not everything is danger. The world is not, you know what I mean? Seriously. I'm not gonna say the world is not dangerous, but I just think we have to kind of, we got to speak a little bit more peace. We got to speak a little bit more life into the present and into the future, because I just think what we're doing is just creating a bunch of people who are afraid to live. And, when you have that, then you're going to have dependency, right? And that's going to show up in any kind of way, whether it's dependency on other people to take care of you, whether it's dependency on their phones. Like, you don't want dependency. If you want to be a person of self-esteem and integrity, like, you want to be somebody who's self-sufficient. You know what I mean? Self-sufficient is not just like paying your bills. Self-sufficient is like being able to think for yourself, being able to, acquire resources for yourself, being able to, you know what I mean? Like, take care of yourself in every capacity. necessity, and so I just think that with this fear, and with the decision fatigue, like we're just creating a culture of dependence. I'm not even just talking about technology just so happens to be the very thing that capitalizes on our dependence, but it's the social, right? It's the social, the ways in which we're being socialized to be a little bit more dependent. And that's just through rhetoric, you know what I mean? Just through feeling like the world is such a scary place. And there are some real dangers, but you'll be all right. Peace.